back with another Couch Potato General Manager video, and we're continuing with our 2022 NFL Draft Series prospect matchups. For this matchup, we have a pair of edge players, right? We have Travon Walker, and Travon Walker's in CPGM Headley's corner, and we have Jermaine Johnson in CPGM Drew's corner. So the respective top fives goes as follows. For Headley, he has Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Travon Walker third, followed by Jermaine Johnson, then Nick Benito. For Drew, it is Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau 1-2, no change there. Jermaine Johnson is his third overall edge player, followed by Travon Walker, and then he couldn't get off the fence with number 5, Boye Mafe and David Ajabo. So not a whole lot separating these two players for you guys, but you do have one over the other. And let's start with you, Headley. Why are you in favor of Travon Walker over Jermaine Johnson, who actually
State
is Florida State, and you are our resident Seminole on this panel. So why Walker?
These guys are very similar, in my opinion, on how they win. These guys are physical edge setters against the run, make plays all over the field. So, I do think they're similar, but the reason why I side with Walker a little above Jermaine Johnson, I think his upside as a pass rusher, I think he can get after the quarterback a little better. I think he drops in coverage a little better, a little more versatile than Jermaine Johnson. And Johnson, he's a one-year marvel, man. He had a big year at Florida State, his last. Travon Walker, I know you play with them Georgia boys. Everybody's balling. It makes it easier on him, but I just like his tools a little bit better than Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah, I like Jermaine Johnson. This might be some recency bias, some Senior Bowl bias. It was a guy who he was actually the top of my list going into the Senior Bowl, trying to just say, listen, watching the tape, like he was missing one last little, and maybe it just came down to the tape that I watched, but he was missing that next move, right? At the snap of the football, the explosiveness, the physicality, as Headley spoke about, his ability to, if plan A worked, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? He was lighting people up in the backfield. He was causing havoc and mayhem. But for me, for some of the tape that I watched, I was like, damn, but if that first move, that A move didn't work, there really wasn't a B, right? But at the Senior Bowl, it's a little bit different. He had plan A, he had plan B, and he had plan C, and he rarely had to use plan C at the Senior Bowl. And he proved to me, that he's got the tools. And I went back after the Senior Bowl and I watched a couple of other games later in the season, and he actually kind of put it all together. So going into the Senior Bowl, had I seen those games that he played later, I would have said he probably didn't really even need to go there, man. I'm glad he did go there.
He didn't play in the game.
He didn't play in the game. He didn't finish the week, man. And so this is a guy who I think, has the potential to be maybe the best pass rusher in this draft because of the tools that he has and his physicality that he has. There's just a little bit more flash in the pan with him, and there is substance in the pan, man. It's all there. You just gotta cook it up a little bit longer, you know what I'm saying? Because he is essentially kind of a one-year wonder at the moment, but he's got the body, he's got the tools, he's got the will, and he has the physicality to get it done, man. And he be talking greasy. I like it.
Two things I wanted to point out for those of you like some of the advanced metrics, pass rush win rate, the time in which, how many seconds it takes for them to apply pressure on the quarterback and things of that nature. When you look at these two players, they do not rank favorably from an analytics standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So it really does come down to the tape, what they're being asked to do, scheme to a certain degree. I think it's a good barometer, a good tool to help you differentiate between players that you have close, which in this case you do. But they both kind of fall a little short. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and like I said, I'm not suggesting that to be a detractor. It's just not, you don't necessarily have that tool available to you in order to kind of separate them, right? Heather, you mentioned that you think Travon Walker is a better pass rusher. I want you to clarify what you mean by that.
Well, what I meant, just the upside. I think he moves a lot better. He's a little more fluid. So he has the upside to become a better pass rusher. I think both of these guys need to work on their pass rushing move. I think as a run stuffer, I think Travon Walker can play inside also, but as a pass rusher, they really have one move. I know Drew said at the Senior Bowl, Jermaine Johnson kind of put it together a little better, and that's what Walker needs to prove on as well. It's like if you get stalled out on that one rush move, and you can't win on just tenacity and just sheer like willpower. Like, what are the techniques looking like? What are your hands doing? What are your feet doing? So, I think both can improve upon that. I just feel like maybe Travon, because his fluidity, can get the passer a little more.
I think there's a hard line after Jermaine Johnson in terms of my rankings. I think, I'm not saying there's a hard drop off, but I'm saying there's a drop off, and here's why.
In terms of the tier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know exactly what you're getting with Travon Walker in terms of everything that he's capable of, because of what they did at Georgia. And I think this goes for a lot of the defensive linemen at Georgia. You're not 100% sure what you're getting. There actually is one guy I think you know what you're getting, but he's not in this draft. But I just, because of the way they play defense, there's
Jalen Carter, by the way. That's Jalen Carter.
Exactly. No, 88.
Big 88.
Yeah, you didn't know. I just, there's meat left on the bone. I can't blame him for it, but at the same time, I know exactly what I'm getting in Jermaine Johnson. You know what I'm saying? And Travon Walker is kind of like, well, okay, what do we do with him?
It's more of a projection.
Yeah,
more of a projection.
And so if I'm a team that has this particular scheme, and I know exactly the player that I want and the style that I'm gonna grab, I'm probably gonna grab Jermaine Johnson because I know exactly what I'm giving. For Travon Walker, is it a guy we're gonna move around? You know what I mean? And the production is not really there. We're just talking about watching him on tape. It's almost like watching an offensive lineman, a guard, a tackle, where there's no stats. It's just what you're looking at: his size, the traits, his explosiveness. Like there's nothing to, there's no substance in terms of, okay, he produced. You know what I mean? If you don't know what you're looking at, you can't really say, what he could be. I think he, obviously he's in my top 5. So obviously I think he's something, but I'm not sure. And I think a lot of people are falling in love with the traits, and what he could be versus what Jermaine Johnson is. That's a knockout punch, bro. Just lay down, bro.
No, I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. Travon Walker is mostly an upside potential play. The traits, we seen him at the combine dropping coverage. He just looks really good out there. Where we know what Jermaine Johnson is. We know the nasty he brings. We know he could set the edge. I agree with that point. But I'm gonna take the potential tenacity from Travon Walker.
One of the things that I find interesting about these two players, and to speaking to Jermaine Johnson, Drew, I would agree with you. I would agree with your initial assessment of him. He's really starting to put it together, though. Every time I see him, like you said, towards the end of last season, throughout the draft process, including the Senior Bowl, you can see that he's being coached up. He's really being coached up. The thing I will say about Travon Walker and Jermaine Johnson to a certain degree is the fact that a lot of these guys often, and we can talk about it at any position, to be perfectly honest with you. Again, the collegiate ranks, they're not preparing you necessarily for the NFL, right? They're dropping you in, and you're going to play a role in their system, or you are the system, one of the two, right? At Georgia, you have a star-studded cast, a lot of uber talented young athletes. And some guys are having to do the dirty work, i.e. Travon Walker, where other guys get to make the play. Jordan Davis, Devontae White. We think Devontae White is a 3 technique. Well, they had him 2 gapping, playing 5 technique. You know what I'm saying? As kind of as a more of a space occupier. You didn't get a ton of opportunity to get upfield. The same thing with Jordan Davis. Now, Jordan Davis has a very unique athletic profile. Perhaps there is some pass rush upside there. We don't know. It's very difficult to garner that. But what you can quantify in terms of Travon Walker is the athletic upside, and that is what scouts are leaning towards. They're leaning towards some additional analytics, and I think in this case with these two players, it kind of goes out the window. But there's going to be a high for, look at those physical traits. Look at how he moves at his size.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus the statistical output that Jermaine Johnson's put up. Like I said, Jermaine Johnson, I think, is really putting it together. It's a very interesting situation here, dichotomy between a player that is very much a projection in large part because of what he was asked to do, right? Whereas Jermaine Johnson made he made the right choice by leaving Georgia, which put him in a position to do what he does best. You understand what I'm saying? By going to FSU. They needed a guy to get upfield, to scream off the edge, to make those plays. So he was freed up to do that. So it's almost a catch-22 here. It's almost a catch-22. But I'm going to agree with Drew in the sense that, again, not to sway this one way or the other, that Jermaine Johnson is really starting to put it together. That spells trouble. Now, again, dealing with Travon Walker at that size with that kind of, movement ability is also a tall order. First overall pick, Headley, Travon Walker, you with it?
I ain't going that far, man. It's like 3 defenders I like over him in this class, at least 3. But first overall, I'm not sure what Jacksonville is thinking, man, because there's some Evan Neal out there, there's Icky out there, Aiden Hutchinson, who's my number 1 pass rusher, he's out there. So they seem like they fall in love with that trait and that athletic ability, but I don't think any of these guys, I think these guys are probably top 13, 14. I don't think Jermaine Johnson passes that. And, Travon Walker might end up being the number 1 pick.
Them boys need to go safe, bro. We've seen enough of it. They tried to go splash last year with the coach and that blew up in their face. They don't need to turn around and let's do that again with players. Just get what's safe and let's build this thing, because it's going to be a slow burn, as I like to call it, in terms of building that team back up.
Right. Yeah. Right. The more and more I think about it, as we get closer and closer to the draft, we're a week away as the recording of this particular video, I think they should go offensive line, man. The more and more I think about it, the more I believe that they need to do what's in the best interest of Trevor Lawrence. They need to prioritize that, especially with the depth in this class. I don't think there's a deeper position in this class than edge rusher. I don't think there's a deeper position. All right, you guys may disagree with that, but I think through the entirety of day 1 and day 2, you can get a guy who could probably contribute day 1.
You're looking at Evan Neal or Boye Mafe or
Ibiketti or
Ibiketti or
you know what I'm saying? A guy like that, Benito, you might be able to drop back a little bit, garner some more. You know what I'm saying?
Or you go Travon Walker and then the 5th, 6th tackle, maybe Trey Smith.
Yeah, I struggle with that. As intriguing a prospect as Travon Walker is, I struggle with that a bit. I really do. I really do. All right, guys, let us know what you think about these 2 prospects, where you think they'll ultimately land. Who do you have higher ranked in your respective rankings, Travon Walker or Jermaine Johnson? For CPGM Headley, CPGM Drew, this is Juice signing off.